Tonight, a fire emergency in the Hunter as wild weather sweeps across New South Wales.
Released and home, Renee Lawrence flies into Newcastle after walking free in Bali.
A man found not guilty of killing high-ranking policeman Colin Winchester, having spent 19 years in jail for the crime.
And Golden Holden, a surprise for the retiring Craig Lowndes at the Newcastle 500.
This is NBN News with Natasha Beyersdorf and Paul Lobb.
Good evening. First tonight, the bushfire emergency unfolding across the Hunter with gusty conditions whipping up two blazes this afternoon. Reporter Sam Burberry joins us live from the newsroom. Sam, which areas are being impacted?
Paul, two significant blazes are testing emergency services. One near Medowie to the north of Newcastle, another near Weston. The Medowie fire began in bushland on the southern side of Richardson Road at around 1 o'clock when strong winds brought down tree branches onto power lines. Those winds, which reached more than 80 kilometres per hour, fanning the flames. The blaze hit emergency level at around 3:30, jumping Medowie Road and burning out of control towards Saltash. Alerts were sent to residents, warning them it was too late to leave and to seek shelter. Multiple cruise and waterbombing aircraft, including large air tankers, are working to protect properties. Almost 100 hectares of bushland has been burnt out so far. Further inland, the other fire that was burning dangerously close to Kurri Kurri Hospital is now tracking towards Pelor, Maine. The blaze there reached emergency level at around 4 o'clock, with residents again told to evacuate if possible or seek shelter. Both fires currently remain at emergency level, with conditions unlikely to ease tonight. Paul.
Thank you, Sam. Sam Burberry reporting there. The spotlight was on Renee Lawrence today as she touched down in Australia following her release from a Bali jail.
It's the return she's been waiting for nearly 14 years, with the relieved drug smuggler making a tight-lipped dash straight for home in Newcastle.
Renee Lawrence lost in transit after arriving in Brisbane and in no mood to chat about her life and times as a Bali jailbird.
Got nothing to say.
She left Bungley Jail to applause from other prisoners. The lucky one who did her time, 13 years, 7 months. As she said her goodbyes, a female prison staffer burst into tears. Maybe at Lawrence's transformation. When she first came to Bungley, she was on methadone. She leaves drug-free. In Bali, they love a ceremony. This was the moment she was formally handed her get-out-of-jail papers. She could barely believe it was happening. A meter from freedom, a last-minute huddle to discuss how to penetrate the waiting scrum. She was free but hostage to a jungle of cameras and police. The authorities had months to organise a dignified departure. In the end, it was a shambles. For nearly 14 years, she's been almost forgotten. But for a few moments, sitting in the back, she looked shell-shocked, the centre of attention. Before Renee was released, it took 6 high-ranking officials to make the announcement that she would be banned from ever entering Indonesia. At Denpasar Airport, where she was busted in 2005, she was given the VIP treatment. At least 24 guards and officials formed the boarding party. When she was arrested, she had 2.2 kilos of heroin strapped to her. This time, hands up, a full-body scan, and Lawrence was free to go. She had a moment with her mother Beverly and a close friend before flying home. And home is Newcastle. Mid-morning, she had morphed into just another passenger. Well, almost. Renee shaped up, head down, and bulldozed through the reception committee.
Are you worried about the outstanding arrest warrants?
They were rumbling and tumbling, and all Renee could see was the finish line. A waiting car outside. At the same time in Sydney, the police commissioner suggesting Renee may not face court on old charges relating to a police car chase.
Others will judge me and think we should have been waiting at the plane for her to pay a price. I think she's paid her price for her sins.
Tonight she's home at Wall's End, ready to start her life all over again. Mark Burrows, NBN News.
A gasp ran through a packed courtroom today when the verdict was read out at the retrial of David Eastman, who spent almost 20 years in jail for the murder of one of Australia's top police officers. Colin Winchester was shot twice in the head outside his Canberra home in 1989. Today, Mr. Eastman was found not guilty. Hiding his face for the last time, David Eastman always claimed he was innocent, and today a 12-member jury agreed.
The jury returned a verdict of not guilty. Justice has been done. It was a very long fight, put it that way. And I'm really pleased for him.
Colin Winchester is the highest-ranking police officer assassinated in Australia. The AFP Assistant Police Commissioner was shot twice in the head outside his Canberra home in 1989. His late wife heard the crack of the rifle that night.
Colin can rest in peace, knowing that the creaking wheels of justice will incarcerate his assassin.
After 2 trials, 2 appeals, an inquiry and 19 years behind bars, today came the shock verdict.
The family believe that the verdict is wrong, and they're extremely disappointed.
Prosecutors argued Eastman executed Winchester because he would not have assault charges dropped. The defence argued it was a mafia hit. For 5.5 months, the jury sat through 127 witnesses and 5,000 pages of evidence. As the verdict was read out, an audible gasp could be heard within the courtroom. David Eastman bowed his head and mouthed the words, "Thank you." In a statement, the AFP recognised the strain on the officers who had investigated the case for close to 30 years. Eastman may now seek compensation. Early Walsh, NBN News.
There were health warnings across New South Wales today as a dust storm swept in from the state's far west. The red haze and strong wind sparked dozens of call-outs for people with breathing problems.
A morning on the harbour with a rose-tinted sky as Sydney was covered in a thick, murky mist, while strong winds meant it was blustery on the bridge.
Facing into the wind, I could feel little specks of dust smacking my face.
So we're going to go up the tower there, but we won't get a very good view.
The dust was kicked up in Broken Hill, the red centre of New South Wales, where dry, drought-ravaged earth was driven eastwards. It engulfed everything, everywhere.
Once you've got those long-term dry conditions, the vegetation cover out in those regions reduces, and then that means that the dust is available to be picked up by these strong wind.
Air quality reached hazardous levels in Sydney's northwest, the worst it gets, and very poor in the east and southwest. Paramedics were alerted to almost 100 cases of asthma or breathing difficulty.
It's potentially unhealthy for everybody, but particularly for people with existing heart and lung conditions.
As shown by this radar, it wasn't just a surge of red sand that caused trouble. The winds carried a separate danger. Trees were uprooted and came down on cars, which closed part of the Pacific Highway at Killara for hours. It's a weather event that's certainly left a mark, and it's not over yet. Peter Stefanovic, NBN News.